Okay, where are we holding again? Bottom line of Man Chachamim, Machshivin, Man Chachamim. It's the bottom of base. Okay, welcome everybody. We're on the bottom line, and the Mishnah said Machlokes if a get which is written on forgeable paper is kosher or not. The Mishnah says Oh, I'm sorry. A few lines earlier, we didn't do this yet yesterday. I'm sorry, we have to go back. It's okay, new sugya. So the Mishnah talks about it was written on forgeable paper, and the Mishnah says which means erased paper. Once it's erased, so it's smudged, and if you write on it, then erase it again. It's also smudged. So that's called, it's erasable because you can't tell if it was erased once or erased twice. The other thing is called diphthera. We'll see now what diphthera is. It's also some kind of paper which is erasable. So Yehuda ben Beseir holds that as possible. Like that would make sense if it's forgeable. So whatever you write doesn't mean anything. But let's say Chacham and Machshivin, which we're going to see in a couple of minutes. How could it possibly be kosher?
I don't really see why not. You don't usually come fortune in a long time. So I think that before you just need it to work while you give it to it. Once you give it to it, it's over.
Okay, so that's going to be the sugya. If that's true or not, it wasn't. That depends. If say the chasima kasi, the mesira kasi, we'll see. That's good, but the chasima kasi might not be kosher. You know, the chasima kasi then it might not be kosher. Okay, so we'll get to that sugya soon. First, we just want to know what does it mean diphthera. Yehuda about 10 lines up. 10 or maybe 10 lines up. Yehuda ben Beseir Omer that it was written on forgeable paper, and the two examples are on the Amachuk and diphthera. It's possible, and the Chacham say that it's kosher. So Gemara talks about what diphthera means. Saying there are three hides, or as a skin, the hide of an animal. So there are three levels of the stages of the process of working it out, and they're called matzah, chifa, and diphthera. Those are the three names. Matzah, that the kind of hide is called a matzah, and a chifa, and a diphthera. It's the same thing, just different processes. There's different stages of how much it was worked out. Matzah, kemashmo, the lo maliyach, or the lo kamiyach, or the lo afitz. Matzah means same way you have matzah of bread that is unleavened, nothing was done to it, just flour and water, you didn't do anything. This hide means a hide that wasn't processed at all. That's another way of saying plain. And the Gemara tells you right away what the three stages of processing the hides are. One is to put it in salt, and one is to put it into flour, kemach, and one is parafatzim. Afatzim was what they call gall nuts, and that tannins that work out the leather. So if you didn't do anything to it, you just took the hide off the animal, that's called matzah. Does that have any halachic ramifications? The Mayilchasa. So Lo'etzah Shabbos. It has to do with it was mentioned by Etzah Shabbos how much is considered a significant amount if someone carried a piece of this matzah out on Shabbos. So he's only chayiv for carrying if it was a significant amount, like it says. That is only chayiv for Shabbos of carrying if it was a significant amount. How much is a significant amount of this unprocessed hide? What? No, you're before. Matzah mashma means literal. Matzah kipshuto. Like it means matzah, nothing was done to it. It wasn't salted, it wasn't, of course, these things don't apply to a matzah that they eat, but it just means, kamashma means that it's nothing. You didn't do anything to it. That's probably what the word matzah means. What? Plain. It could be asked what the word matzah means. I'm not sure if that's what the word matzah means in the chametz and the matzah. It means unleavened. Here it means unprocessed. So not salted, not floured, not tanned. And what is it relevant halachas about such a kind of a hide? So it's on Shabbos. If someone carries it out on Shabbos, it was talked about in the Beis Medrash that how much is considered a significant piece that he'd be chai for carrying. How much is the share of that amount to be considered significant? By Yehuda, as he says over a brisa, in order to wrap inside of it a small weight, that they had weights that were made out of metal, and you wanted that it shouldn't get rubbed out. If it gets rubbed out, then it's not the proper weight. It says 100 kilo, and that kilo is a small one. That smallest one that you have, whatever, an ounce, whatever you have. So you want that it should not get rubbed out. If it gets rubbed out, then it's not going to be a correct weight. So you put it into a casing made out of leather, and you don't need any fancy leather. You just take a hide. It doesn't have to be worked out at all. And that's what they would use matzah for. So if you take a piece of leather that's the size that you'd be able to put in a small weight to protect it, that would be considered a significant amount, and you'd be chayiv for carrying on Shabbos. Become how much is considered a small weight? A quarter of a quarter, whatever it is, that whatever kind of measure, that was the smallest measure that they used in Pompadisa. Mishkal Katan Jayalan. Okay, Rashi tells you that was the smallest weight that they have. And in our times, whatever a small weight would be today, people don't use weights too much anymore. Whatever everything depends on the time and place. Whatever they would use the matzah for, would they use anything? Would they use 100% true? Would they whatever? If you want to know if it's Chayv on Shabbos, only if it's kosher, that's Lasniya, Kamo, only if it would be something which would be significant today. If no one uses it today, so it's not Chayv for carrying on Shabbos. Okay, the next one. Chifa. This is Chifa is the next stage of some kind of process of the leather, the maliyah, it only had one of the three processes that it was salted, but you didn't put the flour, you didn't put the tannins, and that also has halachic ramifications. The Mayil Chasa, Shabbos. Also for how much is carrying on Shabbos, how much is a significant piece of chifa that you'd be high if you carried out for Shabbos. The Kamashiro, so that they wouldn't use for the weights. For the weights, they use the matzah. They don't bother using the chifa. Why should they have it worked out? It doesn't make a difference for the weights. You could use raw leather completely. Kiritnan or Kedei Lasos Kameya. But they would write a Kameya. How do you say Kameya in English? Amulet. So then they would write it, or they would write something. They didn't have to use fancy cloth for that. They would use even as long as it was a little bit worked out, even if it was just salted, they would. Am I saying right? The Kameya, or maybe it was to case the Kameya? Yeah, Rashi says, Roy Lachafos Bokameya. Not that they would write the Kameya on it, but that they would wrap the Kameya on it. They want to keep it, that it shouldn't get spoiled, whatever. So they wrap it. And the wrapping probably it's even smaller. I imagine that it's even smaller than a weight. The kameh is a small thing, maybe. So the chifa would be considered significant if it was big enough to be able to wrap the kameh inside. Diphthera, that's the next stage of the stage of the processing of the leather. The maliyah for kamiyah it's that it was salted and also floured, put flour on it also. They put it soaked in let it wait in flour, but it was not yet no tannins. If it had the tannins already, tannins makes not only it happens to be brown, maybe that's not the point. I didn't say anything about brown. It just means that it makes a process. I think that's the whole. It's a chemical process that changes when you have the hide, and once it's tanned, it changes the chemical makeup of the, and that's when you see the soap that's used. So there's a futzim, so it's soft, and it changes the whole thing. The sid that they do nowadays, they use sid. They don't use this anymore. This is not the common practice anymore. They use sid, lime, and some say that it doesn't do the same effect that futzim do. It doesn't change the chemical process, chemical makeup of the. So some talk about maybe it's better to use a futzim than to use sid, but the standards farm nowadays, the Sifrei Torah, the Tefillin, the Zuzas, everything's done with sid. There are some people that are market trying to get the tannins. But here, the point is that this is not yet completely worked out. I only had 2 out of the 3 processes, or it's called diphthera, and that's L'mayil Chasa also, L'atzar Shabbos. The Kamashua, they look like what I get. It goes with our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says, if you're allowed to use diphthera, which is forgeable, if it would be already cloth, if it would be already Maliach, Kamiach, and office, then it would be impossible to forge. If you'd erase it, it'd be noticeable. But by the diphthera, you can't tell. If you erase it, it looks the same as if it was erased or not erased, and therefore it's forgeable. And that's my focus in the Mishnah if it's kosher or not. Rabbi Ben Beseira says that it's not kosher because it's a forgeable document. And Rabbanan say that it is kosher. We'll see in a second why. And that's why it says that it's right to use for a get. It is interesting that they've used it for a get, even if it's kosher, but why use such a kind of a diphthera? Why use it for that? You can take it. We're going to see soon that it might have limited use, even if it is kosher for a get. It wouldn't be as good as writing a get on a page which is not forgeable. But anyway, that's what it says over here, that diphthera is usable for a get according to Rabbanan of our Mishnah. And what is it? That it had 2 of the 3 stages of the processes of working out the leather. It was salted, had flour put on it, but it didn't have that futzim. Once it had that futzim, then it's called plop, and that's regular parchment.
And then even a small amount would be.
Then the Gemara, the Rashi brings down, that's going to be good for tefillin. Rashi Ketana Shil, does Rashi bring it down? I think I saw. Yeah, Rashi says, why is it not working? Oh, here's the Rashi. Like our Mishnah Rabbanan said, that's kosher. Klav, Gomor, that has all the 3 processes, Maliyah, Kamiyah, Chafetz, that's not called anymore hide, that's called parchment. That's why it's not listed over here. Shlosh or. And how much is that? The Rashi says, Klav, they looked up about Parsha Ketana Shel Tefillin, which is Shema Yisrael, the smallest parsha of Tefillin. The tefillin has 4 parshios. Shema Yisrael is the smallest one. Shema Avrohom Shema. Shema V'Ahavta, that's the smallest parsha. And Shema V'Ahavta goes together. As I said, V'Ahavta means the first couple of sukkim before Avrohom Shema. Avrohom Shema is the second parsha. So if you have a piece of cloth, which is the size of the Shema Yisrael, to write the parsha of Shema Yisrael, so that's the shear which is high for carrying it on Shabbos. Diftera ain't a kosher tefillin. So therefore, the shear is high to make a get, and not to make tefillin. So that came in Agav. They were is a get. That's our Gemara right here. That the shear is they list of all of us a get. There's no minimum size, but we know what a get is. This is the get. This have to have this is the get, and it has to be the size of the get, right? You can write even an aleph if you do a small one. So whatever will be big enough to write again. And that's what it was designated for. And that's why that will be this year. So what are we bringing this all down for? A lot of extra credit we just got. But the point is to know what diftera is. Diftera is that it had maliach, kamiach, but it didn't have the afatzim. And it's kosher for a get. According to Rabbanan, even though it's forgeable, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says not. And now we go to the Ikar Sugya. That was just the fact of what diftera is. And also happens to be that's going to be the shear for carrying on Shabbos because it's a significant amount. It's kosher for a get. Now, machama machshirin. So why should it be kosher? You have a forgeable document. You have a get that was written on forgeable paper, near mochok or diftera, and the Rebbe Beseira says it's possible because you can write whatever you want. And the Chacham say that it's kosher. Why is it kosher? So Rabbi said, like the Gemara is going to say, Man Chachamim Omer Rabbi Lazar. Just point out Rabbi Lazar Amora, Rabbi Lazar ben Pedas. He said that it's the Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Lazar ben Shamua. That's the Tana. There's a Tana and a Mora. So Rabbi Lazar, we had many times, or a few times already, Edom Mesira Karsi, don't Edom Mesira Karsi. That what makes the get? What makes the get take effect? What makes the divorce take effect? So the husband writes, or somebody writes the text of the get, then he gives it over to the woman. So there's a machlokes, Edom Chesima Karsi, Edom Mesira Karsi. Edom Chesima Karsi means, the word Karsi means to make the divorce, to cut. Creases, safer creases. So did the Edom Asira, the Edom in front of whom he gives over the get, is that what makes the creases? Or it's the Edom Chasima? Of course, it doesn't mean as soon as they sign the get, she's divorced. Of course, he has to give it to her. But if he gives her over such a document, that's what makes the divorce, even if there are no Edom Asira. And it seems each one doesn't hold the other one. If you hold Edom Asira Karsi, you don't need Edom Chasima. You can write a get without any signatures, and then he gives it over to the wife in front of Edom, that makes the get. The one who was Edom Chasima Karsi, he writes the get, and Edom signed the document. Now he can give it over to her without any Edom. And the Edom Chasima, they affect the divorce when the husband gives it over to her. So if you hold Edom Chasima Karsi, so you need that the document should be a document that has authority, whatever the word will be. It should be a valid document. If it's forgeable, then the document is not worth anything. Not only question about if someone's going to forge it. Right now, a signature on a paper that's forgeable is not considered a signature. It's nothing. What do you sign on? The text doesn't mean anything. So if you hold Edom Chasima Karsi, it wouldn't be kosher to give a get on forgeable paper. We're not talking about a proof. A proof later on to know if something was changed. Of course, you don't know if it was changed. That's pushing. But the question is, does it affect the divorce? Right now, they signed it. They wrote it on forgeable paper.
Nobody knows.
Again, now we're not talking about 5 years later. You want to know if this document shows what happened 5 years ago. It's surely not going to be a proof to anything because it's forgeable. So whatever it says doesn't mean anything. It could have been written there. But the question is that right now they took forgeable paper, they wrote the get, and the Edom saw how the husband gave it over to the wife. So there was nothing forgery right here. The question only is it a kosher document? So if you hold Edom Chasima Karsi, it's not a kosher document because the signature doesn't say anything. Even though we know that he wrote it, but the signature doesn't mean anything. The signature has to be on a document that the signature is there and they're signing on this document. But if the document can be forged, so it's not considered as a signature. So even though we saw that the husband gave over, it doesn't help us. If you hold Edom Mesira Karsi, you don't even need any signatures. You just need that the Edom should see how he gave over the document. They see the document, they gave it over. That makes a divorce. So we don't care that the document is not a final forged, not forged. I mean to say like a bonded kind of a document. It doesn't have to be because we just have to see that the husband gave it over. So if you hold Edom Mesira Karsi, the forgeable paper is kosher. You want to know if it's going to be a proof for later on. It's not going to be a proof for later on because it could have been forged later on. But right now that they saw that the husband wrote it and gave it over, so then it's a kosher get. So the machlokes between Avrohom ben Beseira and the Chachamim of our Mishnah, if forgeable paper is kosher for a get, is the machlokes. If you hold Edom Chasima Karsi, Edom Mesira Karsi, If you hold Eidim Masira Karsi, so then you can say that the forgeable paper is kosher. That's what the Chachamim say in our Mishnah. And if you hold Eidim Chasima Karsi, then it's not kosher because you have to be able to sign. The signature has to be on a paper that this signature says that this text is true. Is the signing on this? But if it could be forged, if it could be erased, so the signature doesn't mean anything. No, he's not Mora. And Tanis of Elazar ben Shamua. New Gemara. The Alma top line, second line. Also, it's going to be a few times. Rabbi Elazar is going to talk about Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar ben Pedas is going to talk about Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua. Rabbi Elazar Damora is talking about the Tana Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua. Why? So as we said a second ago, that forgeable paper is no proof for the future. That goes without saying. That if it's forgeable paper, so surely you can't bring a proof later on to what was written because maybe it was forged. The question is, if the Eidim Masira, of course you're gonna have to go to the Eidim Masira if you're gonna come to want to know later on the details. Was this woman divorced? Did it say it's any conditions inside? So you have to go to the Eidim Masira. The paper alone doesn't mean anything because it's forgeable. So Rabbi Elazar says that that's a kosher get. It's only a kosher get for immediate use, that she could go right away, that it makes it a valid get, but you want to use it as a proof. You can't add a Sarah Yomim low, but you can use it later on. 10 days later, you can't use the get. Of course, you can use the get as a proof to anything. But the chiddush is you can't even use the Eidim Masir anymore. Maybe there was a condition, and she erased the condition, she forged the condition. It says it's only a get if something happens. Tanai is a condition, right? In Hebrew, you say Tanai. It's a Hebrew word. Maybe it's not a Hebrew word. Maybe it's an Aramaic word. Tanai, okay. But it means the conditions. So maybe there was a condition, and she forged it because it's forgeable paper. Now, of course, we know that goes without saying that the paper is not worth anything. That we know you could forge paper. But the chiddush is that even the Eidim Masira, we don't trust. Right, why? Because they didn't going to forget. Two more lines. And he says, that you could use this document even later. Why? If there would be a Tanai, they would remember. That means the question is if the Eidim Masira remember or not. According to the first man, the Amar Belazar, he says that the Eidim Masira are not going to remember. Only right away. They know exactly what happened. Right away, you can go and say that there's a get and the Eidim are here and they said that this is a condition, not a condition. But if you go later on, the document is not worth anything, and the Eidim are also not worth anything because they can't remember if there's a Tanai or not. So the question arises, of course, the Eidim remember more than 10 days. Do you think that Eidim, every time there's an Eidim, they see a testimony of something, you're going to say it's only good for 10 days, only immediate? If they saw a car accident or a loan or a sale, so it's only good immediately, of course they remember. Eidim are supposed to remember. So the point L'chara means over here that since there is a document, so the Eidim, they don't take it so seriously that they don't put it into their memory. They don't register it deeply. So every time there's a detail, if there's going to be some kind of a kinyan with a deep, anytime you have Eidim, if the details of anything that they're testifying about, Eidim saw a loan on a condition, whatever you're going to say. How long is the loan for? Every time there's a sale, it has a lot of details. Every contract has so many details. So are you going to say that they don't remember if they see a testimony? So I think that they surely do. If their testimony is them, so then they take responsibility to remember all the details, and for a long time also. But here the case is that there is a document. It's a forgeable document, but they rely on it a little bit. If Belazar says that they're going to rely on it, then they're not going to remember the details. If they see the document, they say we saw this document being given over, and even if something is changed, they wouldn't realize. But Rabbi Yochanan says they do realize. So the Hamachok seems to be something special over here. How deeply do they register the testimony that they're witnessing? Since there is a document, after all, there's a document. If there's no document, so then they surely have to take responsibility to remember. But if there's a document that they're relying on a little bit, usually the halach is that witnesses are not allowed to write down in their notebook, a diary, that they saw a certain thing, and then when they come to Bezdin later on to testify about it, they don't remember. They just take out their notebook and they say, I testify that I was there. That's not good. They have to be able to testify from their memory, not from their notebook. But here, the Eidim might rely on this document a little bit because after all, it is a document. That was actually the divorce document that made her divorce. So they might not register the facts in their mind so deeply in a way that they'd be able to remember if it was going to be forged later on. So this is He's going according to Rabbi Lazar. Everyone's going according to the Tana Rabbi Lazar. According to Rabbi Lazar, that holds Eidim Mesirah. It happens to be, we had yesterday, that happens to be Avrohom, seems to be of the opinion also passed like Rabbi Lazar. That the ones who said the Mishnah before is all going according to Rabbi Lazar. The thing about the Topos and the Torah, that was Avrohom also. There was Shmuel, Rabbi Yochanan, and even though they're relying on a document, maybe that's the chash. So Rabbi Lazar said, Rabbi Lazar Amora, Rabbi Lazar Ben Pedah said that don't trust Eidim Mesirah long term over here because they might be relying on the document and it's forgeable. But Rabbi Yochanan says no, they remember. They would remember if it's a condition. No, he's saying his opinion of what Rabbi Lazar would hold. Rabbi Lazar just says Eidim Mesirah Karsi. And he says in the Mishnah that the forgeable paper is kosher. Rabbi Lazar says, but it's only going to be machshir right away, but not later on because they're going to forget. Rabbi Yochanan says it's machshir even later on also. New Gemara, also Machlokes Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Yochanan and Amoraim concerning what we just spoke about. So again, we're talking about a contract that makes it effect, like a get, that makes the divorce. Usually when you have contracts, many times when you have a contract, it's just for a proof. It's not for, like you make a loan. The loan, why you have to pay the loan? Because you borrowed money. The contract is just going to be a proof. That's called shtar raya. It's only a contract which is a proof. So there, surely if it's forgeable, what's it worth? That's no question, not worth anything. But here, we're talking about a shtar that does make a kinyan, a shtar kinyan, that let's say there's a way to sell a field. How do you sell a field? As a nickname, because of shtar b'chasaka, you can make a shtar, and the owner of the field writes a contract that says, I'm hereby giving you, being marketing you this field, and he gives it to the buyer or the recipient of the present, and that makes the kinyan. That makes him own it, makes the acquisition, it makes the transfer. So it's like a get, and the fact that it makes the effect. It's a shtar kinyan. It's a shtar, not a shtar right. It's a shtar kinyan. So the question is now, Rabbi Lazar, okay, Eidim Mesirah Karsi. So you could talk about the same question about affecting a transition of property with a shtar that maybe also you could use forgeable paper in order to make the kinyan, in order to be a raya with the Eidim Mesirah, right? The same way you can use Eidim Mesirah. So you have Eidim that he gave over the shtar, the seller or the nosein matana gave over the shtar to the recipient that hereby you own the field. Yeah, I'm giving you the field with this shtar, a shtar kinyan. So if you hold Eidim Chsima Karsi, so then it's not going to be a good transition because the shtar doesn't say anything. Same thing as before. The signatures don't mean anything. The signatures on a page which is forgeable. But if you hold Eidim Mesirah Karsi, maybe it is a good kinyan. So here, Rabbi Lazar says no. Even according to Rabbi Lazar, it's machshir a get, only a get. But shtar shtar is not. Shtar shtar is that a shtar kinyan, shtar mikna, that he wants to make a kinyan with the shtar. It doesn't work if it's forgeable paper. Why? That it says, it's talking about a pasuk in Yirmiyah where it talks about that they made a contract, and it says put it into an earthen vessel that it should endure for many days, that it should last, it should be preserved. They wanted the contract to be preserved. So here it's more learning out that when you make a contract of financial contract, a deed of sale, whatever it is, there's a halacha that it has to be long lasting. You can't make it short. By get, there's no such thing. You make a get, he gives over the get, she got divorced, it's finished. You will have a proof, you don't have a proof, that's a side point. You won't have a proof, so you won't have a proof. She has to get other proof. She has to be Eidim Mesirah. She has to get an note from Bezdin. But there's no din that the get has to be an enduring proof. But by the financial kind of contracts, so it says in the pasuk that you should make it in a way that it should be long lasting. Is it the area? Am I right? That's the pasuk in the area. Over there, Hashem told him that he should buy a field. The Yerushalayim was getting destroyed. There was a time of deformment, and Hashem said that he should buy a field from his Hanamel. And I think that it was his cousin, he should buy a field. And well, what are you buying a field for? Now everything's going to get destroyed. It's not time to buy a field now. Hashem told him that there's going to come a time once again that Am Yisrael is going to buy fields. They're going to buy fields in the Yerushalayim. And it was like an unbelievable thing. They're going to buy fields. It was like a symbolic kind of a prophecy that it should be preserved. I don't know. I think not from here that he's supposed to make a contract. He made a kinyan on a kinyan. Diftura is forgeable, so it's not able to be used as a contract. It's not here saying that the shtar kinyan has to be a shtar. Make that the shtar kinyan. Besides that, it's affecting the sale. It should also be for the sale. Over there was a shtar kinyan. So make the shtar kinyan that should be approved. So a get, there's no such din. So the get, as long as he gave the get, so it made the divorce, then finished, and he throw in the garbage, even if it's not usable anymore. But here you have to have the shtar kinyan. It should also be a shtaraya, and you can't because it's a forgeable. Even if you're later Masir Karsi, and theoretically the transfer should be able to take effect, but no, it's not a good shtar because it doesn't last long, and therefore doesn't even make the kinyan. It's not a good shtar kinyan. The shtar kinyan has a condition that it also has to be a shtar raya also. That's what Rabbi Lazar holds, and if even Rabbi Lazar, who holds Eidim Masir Karsi, it's not going to be. But it's not good enough. No, that's what he's saying. That since it's not long lasting, so it's not good at all. Not only to 10 days, it doesn't even make the kinyan. It doesn't even make the transfer. He gave him a contract in order to make a kinyan, a shtar kinyan, that this shtar should affect the transition. It doesn't, because a condition of a shtar mikna is that it has to be a shtar raya also. It has to be able to be a long lasting proof. And it's not because it's forgeable. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, afilu b'shtaros, it's called shekona b'laz, Eidim Masir Karsi, it is a good to make the kinyan. It's not going to be a long lasting, that's true, but it is going to make the kinyan. It's not going to be a proof because it's forgeable, but it is going to make the kinyan. Isn't it true that the pasuk mashma that a shtar kinyan also has to be a long lasting proof? That's the good advice that it should be able to be long lasting, but not that it became not that it became halacha that it has to be long lasting, even if it's not, it's still a kosher shtar. No, the question is, this is all drush. I think this is all drush. It's a drush in the pasuk. It's not the pasuk. The pasuk is not talking about hilchas shtar kinyan. It's talking about the nevuah. And in the drush, we darshan that it's supposed to also be a long-lasting shtar, even to make the kinyan also. Yeah, right. What? The Mishnah spoke about a machlokes if a get is kosher on forgeable paper, and we have machlokes now. If one holds that as kosher on a star also, on a star kimmer. And before we had on the bottom of Amar Aleph that the shear, the amount for carrying out on Shabbos a piece of diphthera is the size to make a get. Which is bigger, a get or a deed of sale? So this is saying that if a deed of sale is smaller, so then the shear should have been according to the deed of sale, not that according to a get. I don't know, unless you say that a deed of sale that a get is maybe smaller. How big is a deed of sale? Could be a deed of sale. No, we're talking about it's all a shtar is only going to be for karka, not for. You have to probably describe where it is, the boundaries and stuff. It's probably easier, probably longer than to say the name of the man, the name of the woman, and the city. Hey, you also need the city, you need the name of the. You also have to have the location of where it is. Probably it'll be longer. Probably Ishtam. Okay, new Mishnah. So just to point out that the Mishnah is that juggling back and forth. If it's going to be the Chasima Kasi, the Masira Kasi, so we're in transit. We're doing yo-yo. We're up and down. Each Mishnah you have to analyze: is it going the Chasima Kasi, the Masira Kasi? There's a basic machlokes that's going on, and each Mishnah could be going back and forth. We learned the Mishnah before 2 ways, and then we had this the Reish of the Mishnah. Yes, if we juggle back a little bit to the previous page. This Mishnah we had is talking about focus about writing on mechuber and then detaching it and then signing it, and we had the Mishnah 2 ways to learn the Mishnah. Does we the Masir Karsi, the Chasima Karsi means if you don't the Masir Karsi, there's no signature at all. And when the pasuk says v'kasav, it means dafka the writing. And the Gemara had a problem with that. Or you can learn the Chasima Karsi, and the word kasav means a signature. Then you had also machlokas here. We remember say if you could do on forgeable paper, we just finished learning, and then more comes out. Machlokas say the Chasima the Masira. The Chum say the Masira Karsi. That's why it's good on forgeable paper. And we remember says no, that the Chasima Karsi has to. So each Mishnah you have to always talk about what does the Mishnah hold. The Chasima Karsi, the Masira Karsi. And again, now we go into that again. Just to point out, there's one, whatever you call it, a knich. I don't know how you say that in English, fold, but that's not the way to say it. But the point is going to be, if you hold Eidim Masira Karsi, this is like one of the principles of the sugya. If you hold Eidim Masira Karsi, So when the pasuk says v'kasa, you don't need Eidei Chasima. You don't have to have any signature. And the Gemara says before Tikkun Olam was a minute to write a signature, but you don't really need it. So when the pasuk says v'kasav lo sefer krisos v'nosan b'yoda, what does it mean v'kasav? It can't mean the signature because you don't need a signature. So v'kasav must mean the text. If you hold Eidei Chasima kasi, you may say that the word v'kasav is only going on the chasima, not on the ksiva, not on the writing. Every get has the writing, the text, and it has the signatures. So when the pasuk says v'kasav, what is it referring to? There's a get, and it has the whole text, and the bottom of it has two signatures. There's the get, and here's the signatures. So when the pasuk says v'kasav, what does it mean? The text. So according to Eidei Mesira Karsi, the old Eidei Mesira Karsi, there is no signatures. So when the pasuk says v'kasav, it surely means the text. But if you say Eidei Chasima Karsi, it could be when the pasuk says v'kasav, it just means the signatures. Of course, you have to have the text also, but it could be. That's what we're going to talk about. And it could be that it only goes on the signatures, and it doesn't go. That's what we said yesterday, really, when we spoke about writing the mechuber. If it's mechuber, then you detached it and then you signed it. So we said, according to Amir, that it holds Eidei Chasima Karsi, it's kosher, because when it says v'kasav and nasa, there shouldn't be any ketzitza in between. V'kasav means the signatures. Between the signatures and giving, there shouldn't be any interruption. But the text, the writing text doesn't bother us. Why doesn't it bother us? Because the word v'kasav is only going on the chasima. Of course, you have to have a text, but there's no halachic bearing to the text. You have to sign on a text. The one that we're going to do now. So we didn't do it. We didn't do it yet. Here we go. Everyone can write a get, even if he has no doubt. They're not signatures. These are the writing. We're talking about the writing of the get. So it says here that you don't have to have any kind of person, any special person to write the get. Even they have no das. So what would you say? How do you know? That it holds the Chasima Karsi, and therefore, when the word pasuk says v'kasav, it's not referring to the text, and therefore the text anybody can write. When the pasuk says v'kasav, means the signature. Yeah, this doesn't mean the signatures. And it says that the text, writing the text of the get, it says that it's okay. There's no halachas about it, even the chayshot of the katan, we don't care about it. How can you know? Right. And therefore, there's no, and the Mishnah would make sense. Very, very nice Mishnah. This Mishnah would hold Eidei Chasima Karsi, and therefore there's no halachic bearing to the text. So who could write it? Cheresh, Shota, Vakatan, computer, as you wish, whatever you do. You press the button and it comes out again. It's kosher because, of course, you have to sign it afterwards. But we don't care who writes it. Isn't it a simple shot? If you hold Eidei Mesira Karsi, so when the pasuk, you don't need Eidei Chasima. So when the pasuk says v'kasav, what's it referring to? If you hold Eidei Mesira Karsi, you don't need signatures. So when the pasuk says v'kasav, what does it mean? The text. If it means the text, the Mishnah wouldn't make sense. So this Mishnah must hold Eidei Chasima Karsi. That would be a simple way to learn the Mishnah. A new Mishnah. Aisha Kasev says Gita. We had this yesterday. Aisha Kasev says Gita. Vish Kosev Shovro. Shein Kiyam Aget. A woman can write her own get. Of course, she has to give it to the husband, and then the husband has to give it to her. We had yesterday that we see from here that a woman has enough seichel to make a kid to be makli, even though she's going to get it back again. She writes the get, gives it to the husband gives it back to her. Even though she wrote her get, it says in the pasuk that he should write it. No problem. Because the validation of the get is only by the signature. You can learn a simple pshat. Peter said, the signatures are the ones that make the get. And therefore, we don't care who wrote. We don't care who wrote it. And
the writing is not significant.
The writing is not significant. So Shota, Vakata, and the woman herself, they all can write it. And we just then you have to get Eidei Chasima and then give it over in front of Eidim, or not give it over in front of Eidim. If you hold Eidei Chasima Karsi, you don't have to give it over, just sign it with Eidim. And also the Mishnah says in parentheses, the man who pays the ksuba, he wants a receipt that he paid the ksuba. That usually when there'd be a get, so the husband would give the get to the wife, he'd write it and give the get to the wife, and she would write it and give the ksuba. and she would write a receipt that she got the ksuba and give it to him. And he has the opposite, that the woman is writing the get and the man is writing the shover, the receipt. So no problem, because we don't care who writes it, as long as you have the chasima. That get also, even though she wrote the get, she wrote her own get, but she gave it to the husband, and the husband gave it to her. And, yeah, that I was paid, that he paid. She gave it to him. Well, it doesn't really have to be like that because there's no real giving. It's just that there's a chasima. It's only a proof over there. It's not making any effect. It's just a proof. Or either she signs it, or he got they got Adam to sign it. The Adam signed it over there. He paid for the ksuba, and he wrote that he wrote that the woman says that he said that she received it, and the Adam signed it, and it's a good proof. Over there by the shoulder, there's no effect that it's taking. It's just a proof. So they have Adam. Adam is the proof. So that's in parentheses. What? So Chandav wants to know, are we going to pass like this? So we just finished saying that the first pshat in the Mishnah sounds like a chasima kasi. And we hold Eidei Mesira kasi. We hold Eidei Mesira kasi. Every time you see a Mishnah back and forth, we're going to have to always know we pass an Eidei Mesira kasi. And according to where yes, maybe other shtar was also shtar kinyan, but we just said shtar kinyan also shtar mikna if you're making a transaction that's taking effect because of the shtar. Also machlokas Eidei Mesira the chasima. So Belazar holds Eidei Mesira kasi. That's how we paskin, and the Mishnah doesn't make sense because so when the pasuk says v'kosav, what does v'kosav mean? Does it mean the signatures? It doesn't mean the signatures because you don't even need signatures. So when the pasuk says v'kosav, it must mean the text. And the Mishnah says that the text is written by the cheresh or the v'kotan or the woman. Could that be if you hold that the v'kosav means the text? Mishnah wouldn't make sense. So far, according to Eidei Mesira Karsi, even the Mishnah, this Mishnah wouldn't make sense. This Mishnah must be going Eidei Chasima Karsi. So we learned the Mishnah, but not the Gemara right away learns differently. Well, the pshat that we said, the Gemara is going to come to the simple pshat that we just said in the Mishnah. The Gemara is going to come at the end of the whole story. The Gemara is going to reveal that this is the Pashut pshat. But now we assume Eidei Mesira Karsi. Because the pasuk says v'kasav v'nasa. What does v'kasav mean? What does v'kasav mean? Before you get, what does v'kasav mean? Does it mean signatures or does it mean the text? It can't mean the signature. Your Eidei Mesira Karsi, it can't mean the signatures. It must mean the text. Now, can anybody write it? If the Torah says that the husband should write the text for the get, can anybody write it? But that's the pasuk says that. Okay, so the Rashi and Tosfos say a nice point. Moshe wants to know. So let's say you have to have a kasav going on the text. So why can't it be written by a monkey? The pasuk says that it should be a text. So everyone points out that the issue is lishma. Since it says v'kasav Allah, that has to be lishma. So if v'kasav means the ksiva, if it means the chasima, so fine, the chasima has to be lishma. But the ksiva doesn't mean anything. But if you hold that v'kasav is going on the ksiva, on the writing, on the text, and it says v'kasav Allah lishma, so then that's the problem. Because the cheresh of v'katan make it get lishma. And that's the most kasha, or you can't use it. And the Gemara is assuming that the Mishnah is Rav Elazar. If the Mishnah is Rav Meir, the Gemara wouldn't have a kasha. But the Gemara is assuming we pass like Rav Elazar, that maybe that's why the Gemara thinks so. So how could it be kosher to write to get cheresh of v'katan? Yeah, because the pasuk v'kasav means because of the text. And lishma. Rashi and Tosfos both say the kasha is lishma. They have no das. They have no seichel to do with lishma. Amar Rav Huna, who? Top of daf. Top one? Top Gimel. The who shaya God lo min al that the Mishnah that says that it's kosher, it's only if there's an adult that's standing over there and telling him when he writes it, he should write it for this man, for this woman, it has to be made lishma. That the gadol could teach him to do it lishma. Now he has he stands on top of the kid, he stands on his head, he stands on his back, and he tells him to do it lishma. It means if he tells him b'shas ma'aser that the kid registers. They're on his own to do it lishma. Here it says for Ashota also. What's the problem?
You're right. Right. You don't have no, if he's writing,
he's not considered a bardas. He's not considered a bardas. So the question is, do you see over here that a god lamal al-gabav is good also for a cheresh and a shota? That's what it seems to say. That's what it seems to say. I didn't think about it. That's what it seems to say. That a god lamal al-gabav. He's writing the get. Yeah. So whatever the
Maybe like when
halacha.
we write the name.
Yeah.
This
Okay.
is yes.
Oh, you'd be a very good person to film on top. You're hired.
Okay, that was the kasha, that was the terrace. It goes according, now the Gemara is changing everything. It's going according to Belaza, and the text has to be kosher text, has to be lishma, and a kat chesed if a kat cannot do it like that, can't do it. But if they have al gadla over al gaba, that's what the Mishnah means. You could theoretically, you could if you put effort into, you could get the text to be written by a chesed of a katan and be kosher. If you have an adult who's sitting on top of him and telling him how to do it correctly. Amalei Rav Nachman said to Rav Huna, Elamiyata goy, Yisrael Amar Gaba Vachinam with the kasha. How about a goy? How about a goy? A goy also could write a get if there's someone telling him to do it lishma. You want to say yes? Of course, if the goy can be by, why not? But they said, but Tanya, goy puzzle.
If it's a financial a bad marriage.
Not following what the problem is.
I don't think you have to watch all the time. I don't understand what the good man is.
If you're gonna say that a goy is kosher, but it says in the price that goy is puzzle. Yeah, that's all price. A goy puzzle. It's the one on this case of the Mishnah that a cheshot of a cotton is kosher and a goy is puzzle. If the cheshot of a cotton is only kosher, if you have a gadol al gaba, so why should the goy be any worse? That's the kasha. The answer, yes, kasha. The answer is goy l'datei denavshei avad. The goy does what he wants. He doesn't. You tell him to do something, he doesn't do what you tell him. He's doing what he wants. Even if you're sitting on top of him and telling him right lishma, he has his own opinion. Oh, a cheshot of a cotton doesn't. A cheshot of a cotton doesn't. Cotton ain't bodas. Elamash is emasaveh. The cotton doesn't have any. That's whenever you tell him, he listens. But goy. Even if you tell me he has his own agenda. This is your general cash on the whole chance. That it depends on each person, and you can't make it cloud. I don't know the answer. I still don't know the answer.
No, so that's what he's older.
If he's a Jew, so then he does the halacha. He wants to make a kosher get. But the guy.
Yeah, I was curious.
I changed.
But if the guy would accept, please don't touch it. And then he went to work.
Right. So far we. Who was a Jew? A Jew you could trust. Okay, here is so far we have Pshat in the Mishnah that we didn't think of. We thought in the Mishnah the Chesim Bakasi. I think it's very simple. not replacing it. So far we have the Pasha reading in our Mishnah, which the Gemara didn't talk about it yet. The Gemara wants Edom Mesira Kasi. That's a joke. Edom Mesira Kasi. And Edom Mesira Kasi means that when it says Vakasav, it means the text. So the text has to be Lishma. And the Mishnah says, Acher Shot of Katan is good. It's only talking about it as a God Lomer al Gab, telling him to do it Lishma. And the guy is not good, even if you tell him, even if you tell him to do Lishma, it's still not good. Hada Amar Rav Nachman. Then Rav Nachman changed his mind. Love Miltzida. Hada Amar Rav Nachman. Then Rav Nachman said, Love Miltzida Amri. It's not true what I said. And he agreed to Rav Huna's pshat that is talking about it's going Edom Mesira Karsi. And he had a kasha with the teres. He wanted to know about a guy, and he said why a guy is not good. And he agreed to Rav Nachman that the pshat in the Mishnah is that the Shot of Katan is only good when there's a God Lamed al Gab. You do need the text to be written Lishma. and the cotton cannot do that, but there's an adult standing him, telling him what to do, and he listens to him. That's what. And now he's going to say there's the different shot. It's wrong what I said. It's wrong what you said. Rashi puts in. It's also wrong. I said Rabuna does not. I just finished saying that the Brisa says that a guy is possible. Cotton could write the get, but a guy could not. I brought a Brisa that said a guy could not, but I'm wrong. A guy is kosher to write the get, because the next Mishnah, if you jump down a little bit to the next Mishnah, here we are. Hakol Kisherin Lahavi Yasaget. Before the mother writing the get, he was about bring the get, the shliach. Everyone's kosher to bring the get. Chutz Micheres Shota Vakata and Suma Vagoy. Here it did talk about a guy. Our Mishnah spoke about writing the get. It says that everyone's kosher, even a Shota Vakata. The next Mishnah talks about the Shota Vakata is not going to be a shliach. We'll see the next Gemara soon. But here it does talk about a guy, and our Mishnah doesn't talk about a guy. The fact that you see that the Mishnah does talk about a guy, and our Mishnah didn't talk about a guy. So it wants to be medaik that a guy is also kosher. How does he read that? Midikap, where is that? Adam Rav Nachman Lav Notzi. It's not true what I said. The Midikap possibly the guy b'linyan avos. Since the Mishnah says that a guy is not kosher, right? Upcoming Mishnah says that it doesn't mean that the words don't say that, but it means in the Mishnah. In the upcoming Mishnah it says a guy is possible to bring mechlad le'inyan ksiva kosher. So we could make a dik that he would be kosher to bring the get. And even though it doesn't say it in our Mishnah, it's also kosher. So a cheresh, shota, v'katan, and a goy, they're all kosher.
Right.
To write. And the kashi is vatani goy posel. The Brisa said the goy is posel to write. Ahi Rabbi Lazahi, that made him Mesira kasi, ubinik sivu l'shma. Vavadai goy adaited and nafshei. So here the Gemara doesn't say the words outright. It's going to be at the end of the sugi, I'll speak it out. Rashi already speaks it out. That he doesn't say the words, but he means to say that our Mishnah, the reason why it's kosher is because the ksiva, the writing of the text is nothing, because it goes according to Rabbi Meir, and therefore I don't care what wrote it. Not till now we understand. That's the first shot that we learned the whole time. We learned the Mishnah. We said that the Mishnah is mashma that we don't care about the writing. That's a simple shot. So, Eidei chasima karsi, and therefore the word v'kasav in the pasuk just means chasima. It doesn't the signature. It doesn't mean the text. The Torah doesn't talk about the text. Of course, you have to have a text, but the Torah doesn't mean that. When the Torah says v'kasav, it doesn't mean that. It means the signature. So there is no halachic implications about the writing, and therefore you could have a shot of a katan, you could have a guy, you could have a monkey, you could have a computer. You can have it printed. You hold it. According to you pass the Mesir currency, and therefore because of means the text, so you can't print it nowadays. But according to Rabbi Meir, you would be able to print it. And there's no halachas about the writing because the word v'kasav means the signature, and that's what he means to say. It's not so clear on the Gemara. You have to figure it out. That he says that the next mission is mashma that a goy is kosher, and the Brisa says the goy is possible. It depends who's talking. According to Abu Lazar, we're going to say Edom Mesir Karsi, and the word v'kasav means a ksiva, so a goy is possible. The goy is, and like we said, a guy that the nafsheko is not even going to help if you have God al Gava. But our Mishnah that the guy is kosher because he holds you don't need any kind of writing because the word v'kasav is referring to the signature because Eidei Chasim Karsi. So it's not so clear on the words. It's missing a lot of information. It just says if it says it's possible, it goes to point to Abulaz Edom Mesir Karsi. And we have to figure out that means that our Mishnah says that's kosher is going to Rav Meir Eidei Chasim Karsi. So it's nice that our Pashup Shat that we learned in the Mishnah it's coming through, but it didn't say it explicitly yet. It is going to say it at the end of the sugya. It will say it. But so far we have two pshatim in the Mishnah. Either you can talk about Chereshot of Vakatan is really you do need the text to be written well. If you're the Mesir Karsi, it could do lishma. The other pshat would be that it goes according to a mayor, Eidei Chasim Karsi, and the word v'kasav in the pasuk means a signature. It doesn't mean anything about the text. And the text anybody can write. There's no halachas. You could have a Chereshot of Vakatan, a monkey, a guy, a computer. Those are the two pshatim in the Mishnah. Yes, but the question about the word v'kasav means. When the person says v'kasav, there are two choices, not Mesira. The word v'kasav either means chasim or kasiva. So if you hold Eidei Mesir Karsi, you don't need signatures. So the word v'kasav must mean the text. If you hold Eidei Chasim Karsi, so you could say that the word v'kasav is only referring to the chasima, not the kasiva. Yeah. What? From the next Mishnah, we see that this Mishnah holds as kosher. That's the just as you see that's one say Chereshot of Vakatan, and then it says Chereshot of Vakatan guy, So the fact that it left it out, the Gemara makes a diak out of it. The fact that it left it out, it's mashma that it's so late that it's left out. One may argue. You have a parenthesis over here, a little bit about Edich Simakarsi. Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman said, we had this quoted before. Rav Meir used to say, even if he found in the garbage, found a get in the garbage, it happened to have his name and his wife's name and the same city and everything. And he said, oh, very interesting. So, but it wasn't signed. And he got signatures and he gave it to his wife. It's kosher. It means he doesn't care about the text at all. That's another way of saying he doesn't care about the text at all. And the Gemara before said on Daf Gimel over there that he means, he got signatures. He got to wait them to sign it. And then he got signature. Yeah. He found the text in the garbage and his name. Right. That's what males, you don't need the shema. They're writing, you don't care about the shema. How can you say such a thing? I went past the kasha. It says because of law. It says in the Torah because of law. That means the shema. No, don't you say that? Doesn't it mean that has to be written the shema, the text? My love ksivs a get that has to be written the shema. Lo chasima say them. The word v'kasav means the signature. And that's what we said the whole time. That if you hold the chasima karsi, so the word v'kasav is referring to the signature, not to the text, not a kasha. Eis ve'rava. We have this Mishnah tomorrow. Kol get shenichtav shelo. The third parak. Kol get shenichtav shelo l'shum isha pasal. It says if it wasn't written l'shma, it's the written get shenichtav. Any get that wasn't written l'shem the woman, it's pasal. So don't you see that has to be written? The Gemara wants to make all these mishnayos to go according to a mayor. Ema shenechtam shelo l'shem isha pasal. It means the word nichtav. You could be matchik. You could push and say that it means the signature. The writing we don't care about. Third kasha, Esvei. It says in a Mishnah, Kishu Kosvo. Oh no, it's a brisa. There's a brisa we don't know. This only mentioned this brisa only over here. Kishu Kosvo, Kilo Kosvo Lishma. Those are the words. When he wrote it, it's as if he wrote it Lishma. And Rashi explains it means when you wrote part of it, it's as if you wrote the whole thing, Lishma. That's how the Gemara understands the brisa. Wouldn't have thought so, but if it's, when you wrote part of it, it's as if you wrote the whole thing Lishma. You wrote part of it Lishma. It's like you wrote the whole thing Lishma. My love, Kishu Kosvo Latoref Lishma, Kilo Kosvo Latofas Lishma. Doesn't that mean to say that if part of the writing was the Shema, so the rest of it also could be assumed as the Shema? And it means the Torah means the blanks, you fill in the blanks, his name, her name, the city, the time. So then it's the whole Tofas is considered Lishma, the whole form, the rest of the form is Lishma. And you see that the writing has to be Lishma. It means according to that understanding of the Brisa, it says that the writing has to be Lishma. And you're saying the writing doesn't have to be Lishma. No, it doesn't mean that. Kishu Chosmo Lishma, Kilo Kosmo Lishma. As long as you signed it Lishma, we don't care about Ksiva. Even if it wasn't done Lishma, the Chsim alone is good enough. Before also the Gemara thought that the Torah is the main Ksiva, the blanks, and the rest of the Torah is not so important. Here the Gemara is saying that only the Chsim is important and the whole Ksiva is not important. So the Gemara got through all three kashas that you could always say that it means Chasima. Ibra Yisema on all these kashas, Hani Maslis and Manu Abalazi, Dam made the Masir kashas. These are kashas from Mishnayos, Brises. That's not a kasha on a mayor. Meizatani, you can argue on all that. Even if it's true that the second and third these brises call a guess in if Shalom Shemisas partial, it could be Abalaza's talk. He holds Ksiva, he holds Edim Masir Kasi, and the Ksiva has to be Lishma. And this other brisa that says Kilo Kosva Lishma, you could say the brisa of Abalaza, and Rabbi Taka argues. The first kasha, because of Lishma, I think it's a kasha from the pasuk. So over there he has to explain the pasuk means the Chasam, Chasima Seidim. So that was a side point about Rabbi Meir holds a day Chasima Kasi, and the pasuk says because of it means only the Chasam, and text we don't care about. The text anybody could write, and that will be a nice shot in the Mishnah. That the Mishnah might mean that the Charishat of a cotton could write a get because it has no Allah bearing. Next terror. Rav Yudah Mashmuel, who should share Makam Torah. A new terrorist. How to read the Mishnah? You know how to read the Mishnah? That the Charishat of a cotton is kosher? You don't have to say it's talking about that. He left out the blanks. Means even though you have to have the writing, the main writing means the names and his name, her name, the city, the time. That's the main part of the writing. So we don't care about the rest of the form, like we call the tofas. The tofas of the form. The whole the standard form that's for all gitin, that anybody could write. Even if you hold, even according to our mayor, even according to Rabbi Lazar, even according to Rabbi Lazar that says Edom Masir Karsi, and the word Bakasav means the writing, it means the blanks. If that's the right word we use, the place you put in the names and all that stuff, the individualized part of the get. And that's like Lona Mishnah. And Enochanami, the Charishat of a cotton cannot write the blanks, they only could write the standard form. It says the same thing. The daf gets kosher if they left off. Even according to Belazar, If you say it's Rabbi Elazar, it's only kosher if you left out the blanks. Rabbi Elazar, of course, according to Rabbi Elazar, says Eidim Asira Karsi, and therefore because of means writing, and the writing would be possible if the kid would write it. But if you left out the blanks, it's okay. Rabbi Zvikam, Rabbi Yochanan, Ein Torah. Rabbi Yochanan says that's not true. Ein Torah means there's no such halacha. The Gemara explains by Ein Torah. What does that mean to say Ein Torah? It means to say that you don't need lishma. What do you mean you don't need lishma? You don't need lishma in the writing. Here's finally what the Gemara says, spells it out what we're looking for. That you could say the Mishnah goes according to a mayor, that the Chasim Kasi and the word for custom only means the signatures. It doesn't mean the text. The text is irrelevant. You can do whatever you want. Somebody else said Rabbi Yochanan, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. This is Rabbi Zrika Rabbi Yochanan. This was Rabbi Babachana Rabbi Yochanan. That does go according to Rabbi Elazar. That was, where was that before? That he said, where did Rabbi Yochanan say Rabbi Elazar he? Right, the 2 lines ago. Rabbi Yochanan. No, I missed it. Where does Rabbi Babachana say in the name of Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Elazar he? Did we have it before? Maybe because by the Mishnah before, I didn't pay attention. It could be the Mishnah before where I spoke about writing with Mechuber. Over there was Rabbi Yochanan also. He's the one who said that Rabbi Elazar sounds like Rabbi Yochanan, like Rabbi Elazar. The answer is, I'm a writing, I'll leave with Rabbi Yochanan. Machlokas, I'm wrong. What Rabbi Yochanan said. Two Talmidim, Rabbi Yochanan quoted him differently. Does he hold like Rabbi Meir? Does he hold like Rabbi Elazar? So back to our Mishnah, I just highlighted it over here. So you have the Machlokas, I'm wrong. What Rabbi Yochanan said. That was talking about the Mechuber over there, right? Like Yochanan said, the Mishnah like a Elazar. That sounds like he was like a Elazar. All right, and here is Rabbi Chaga on Rabbi Yochanan. Machlokes Talmidim, what the Rabbi said. So just to sum it up, we have on our page we have 3 tibbutz on how to learn our Mishnah. 3 possibilities how to learn our Mishnah. That says that the Charishot of a cotton could write get. How can they write the get? So one simple shot will be the last one of Meir. The mayor holds you don't care about the text. The text is nothing, that's the signature. And the other 2 pshatim go according to Rabbi Elazar that the text is important. So have a chayshot of a katan. One there says that the God loman al gabav, that the adult is telling him what to do, and then he does listen, or he leaves out the blanks. And the blanks you have to have a regular person to write it. The katan can't write in the names. We're getting behind the whole time. Should we go further? Is everybody happy to go further, or what you know? Are we happy to go further? Okay, we continue. Everybody could be a shliach to bring the get. Before we spoke about writing the get, they were talking about to bring the get. So this is more serious. Chutz. Right? This is bringing a shliach from the husband and overseas, and then to give the get. He's in place of the husband. So, yeah, when the husband gives the get, the shliach is going to be giving the get. Right? You can call it a masira. The one is giving over the get. But the point is not as much as giving it, that he's the shliach from the husband. He's representing the husband. So who's kosher to be a representative of the husband? So it says everyone's kosher. Chutz v'chereshot v'katan v'suma v'goy. Chereshot v'katan, they have no das. We'll see in a second. The Gemara is going to spell everything out. That they have no das, so they can't be a shliach. And Suma's blind. The Moshe asks, what's the problem? What's the problem with him? What's the problem? And a goy also can't be a shliach. And therefore what? What is he going to do with his mind? What does he get before? The question was lishma. He's not doing it lishma. But over here, what's the problem? He's giving the get. He brought the get. Let's see. Next case. Even though we said that these people are puzzle, what if he changed the status from the time that he received the get until he gave it? Keep it like katan v'higdel. When he got the get, he was still a katan. But then he got his bar mitzvah on the way from overseas. He became bar mitzvah, and now he wants to give it. Is it kosher? No, because when he got it, he wasn't able to be a shliach. All the cases. Cheresh v'nispakeach, Suma v'nispateach, Shota v'nishtafa, Goy this guy. All these people, they changed status. The katan became an adult. The cheresh became ois cheresh. The deaf mute, he became healthy. He became opened up to what he became opened up. Suma, this not yet. Suma v'nispateach, the blind person that became open, like Pokeach Hebron. Hashem opened up his eyes. Shota v'nishtafa, the Shota became normal. The word shtafa, I don't know where the word comes from. Shafui. Nowadays in modern Hebrew also, they say somebody has seichel, they call them shafui. I don't know where the word comes. Here it is. Here's the word. I don't know what. The opposite of a shot is a shafui. And a goyish fin is gaya. So all these cases are not good. Still possible because when he got the get from the husband, he was not a kosher. He was not kosher. Doesn't help that he became kosher later on. But what if he was kosher, apostle kosher, avo pikeach, then is he can't do I cut and he can't go backwards. Once he's a bar mitzvah, he can't go backwards. But the rest of them, pikeach and ischarish, because of his pikeach, he was healthy. Then he became a cherish. When he got the get, he was healthy. Then he on the way he became a cherish, and then he became healthy again. Because of an ispatech, or pasuach and istamah, because of an ispatech, he was able to see. When he got the get, he became blind, and then he's able to see again. Also good. Shafui, the nishtata, because of an ishtafa again, that he had sense, he was sane, became insane, became sane again. Kosher. Why? As long as the beginning, when he became a shliach, and then when he gave it over to the woman, it's kosher, it's kosher. But if one of them is missing, it's not good. What's the middle case? We didn't talk about it. I didn't mean to say. No, I just obvious case of the cotton. The cotton became a gadol, can't become a cotton again. That's what I said. Right. That's called a cherish something. So what does the Mishnah say? That he has to be kosher at the time of becoming the shliach, giving. Yeah. If he was we understand why chesed v'katan can't be a shliach because they have no das, so they can't be appointed to be a shliach. How about it? Oh, that's what he meant to say. That's what I was saying before. So therefore, the end also, right? Also have to be. So if he got it, so that's what he said. If he was not blind and then he became blind, it's no good. Even though the Mishnah didn't say that case. You're right. You're right. All the cases. Right, right. But if it will be that either the end or the beginning are missing, then it's not good. We understand why the apostle, because they have no dust. They can't be a shliach. Goy nami laba teirahu. Laba teirahu means that he's not in the parsha of gitin. He's not something that's not. He's not in the. He's not in the status of a gitin kedushin. He's not the Torah's gitin kedushin. He does not have that status of being a person who is involved in affects him. It doesn't affect him. So if somebody's not in that halach, he can't be a shliach for something that doesn't affect him. Taisa says it could have said simpler that he can't be a shliach. There's a din that a guy can't be a shliach, so I could have said simpler. Here it's saying even someone who's a Jew, if he's not in that parsha for some reason, also he cannot be a shliach. It was a bit fancier than it had to be. Could have just said he's not a shliach. Right. They just decide that it's over. Right. Right. Yes. That's the way to get married and the way to get divorced. He's in the same parsha as anybody else. Doesn't make a difference if he's married or not. But a guy is not in the parsha of gitin and kedushin, so therefore he can't be a shliach. Elasuma amaylo. Why is a blind person not kosher to be a shliach? He's a kosher shliach. He has das. He's a kosher shliach. He's Jewish. Everything is good. So why can he not be a shliach? Amar Rav Sheshes, if he she'eno yodea mimi not low. Well, the me knows no. Technically, he doesn't know who he's getting it from. He got it from the husband. He doesn't know what the husband is. He doesn't see him. He got a paper. He knows that they told him that it's a get. They told him that it's a get. He's saying that he has to trust it. He's trusting everybody, but he doesn't know. So he doesn't know who he's getting it from. He doesn't know who he's giving it to. He doesn't see who he's talking to. Rav Sheish himself was blind. It happens to be. Oh, that's Rav Yosef's kasha, and he also was blind. Rav Yosef, Master Rav Yosef. How is a blind person able to have relations with his wife? How is anybody able to have relations at night when they don't see his wife? It must be because you recognize the voice. Because you recognize the voice. So he knows the people. He knows this is the husband. He knows this is the wife, and he recognizes their voices. That's enough to trust. It's enough. So there's no problem. That wouldn't be a reason why a blind man cannot be a shliach to give a get. Alam Rav Yosef, it's only a case if it will be a chuslaris. It will be a get to the Eretz Yisrael. The blind man could be a shliach, but it's chuslaris, and he has to say b'fanei nechtam, and he can't because he didn't see the writing. That's why he can't. That's why he's possible. And if you would bring a shliach and you'd get kiskayim b'chosamav, it's kosher, like the Gemara said. Someone brought to get, and he didn't say b'fanei nechtam. It doesn't make it possible. He does have to get agent that they're going to verify the signature. Where he has to say b'fanei nechtam, I mean, he can't say it. B'fanei nechtam, right? And he can't. That's why it's no good. The Eretz Yisrael is good, and even the chuslaris, if you brought it, so you get agent to be mekayim, but then it's also good. What if he was able to see and he became blind? So there's no problem, according to you, even if he's still blind. The Mishnah says, we'll say in a second, the Mishnah says that he became able to see again. According to you, as long as he's able to see, and now he hears the woman's voice and he says he knows who he is, who she is, and he's giving her to get, then it's kosher. Is that true? It says the Mishnah only if it was seer, blind, seer. Only if he's able to see again, but if he remained blind, he can't. And according to you, it's even kosher if he's still blind. No, the answer is I could say that it's true that a blind person, that now he's blind, when he got to get, he was not blind. Now he's blind, it's good kosher. So why does the Mishnah not say that? Because in other cases, the case of the Shota, the Cheresh, all the other cases has to be that he became a Bardas again. Over there, by the case of the Shota, you have to say sane, insane, sane. Because if he's still insane, he can't be a Shliach. Time with the Chazav and Ishtafa, only because he became sane again. In that case, if it wouldn't have become sane again, it wouldn't be good. That's why that's why he says by the blind person also that he was a seer and then blind became a seer again. But you're right. Even if it would have remained blind, also it'd be kosher because he knew where he got it from. He could say b'fanei nechtam, and now he hears the woman's voice and he gives it to her. It's also kosher. Rav Ashi, Economy, I even have a proof to you that it's kosher even if he's still blind. Because the end of the Mishnah, when it wants to wrap it up and say the klal, it says that klal kosher philosopher v'sofa b'das kosher. Below katani kosher philosopher v'sofa b'kashvus kosher. The Mishnah is very interesting. It talks about all kinds of psulim, and then it says you have to have the beginning and the end b'das. It could have said b'kashvus. That would be the simple in a kosher status. But it doesn't say that. You don't need a kosher status. What do you need? Das. That means that the cases of das, you have to have das by receiving it and by giving it. But the case of the kashrus means the summa case, you don't have to have the beginning and the end, as long as he's a bar das. But yes, enough to have the beginning that is able to see. Even at the end, he can't see. It says the word das instead of kosher. The Mishnah, the end of the Mishnah, the last words in the Mishnah. It should have said the last word over there, but das. It could have said zakla kosher yourself with kashrus in a kosher status. Why does it das? That the kosher status is not so important. It's only important that he should have das. In the case of the blind man, even if he's still blind, it's not so for kashrus. But it's good enough because when he got to get, he said b'fanei nechtam. He could say b'fanei nechtam because then he was able to see it. And even though now he's blind, it's good enough because he could recognize the woman's voice and give it to her. It's including a summa that it's saying that since so far b'das, it's also okay. He can, because he sins, right. And therefore, and they're right, and therefore it's kosher, even though it's not so far b'kashva, it's so far b'das. That's good enough. So it says that it's good. The only problem is if it's a chusla, then that's the funny enough. Then you can. Okay. Shmamina, right? That's the end. That's a good, right? That's the end of that segment. But we see that we don't need the kashrus. That the summa is kosher even if he's still blind. If when he got it he was not blind, even though now he's blind, it's okay. And the Gemara explained the only problem is because of b'fanei nechtam. If it would be an Eretz Yisrael, no problem at all. It does. It doesn't have to be so for kashrus. I guess we should stop here. What's today's daf? Probably that one did Chavdal today already. So we're just a number behind. Okay. So tomorrow can't say the share tomorrow. So tomorrow my Shabbos because it's going to say 10 o'clock. Tomorrow 10 o'clock. 8:30 Bez Hashem and the 8:30. Thank you. What is that? The davening is 7:45. Second minyan at 8:30.
I don't have any